In Season 1 of At the Iowa Farm Table, we dove right into the deep end. We looked at school lunch, pesticides, the benefits of diversifying crops in our state. We asked why water in Iowa is so polluted, hunger is on the rise, and farmers are struggling to make ends meet. Today, in our first episode of Season 2, we're going to talk about aha moments, glimmers of inspiration. Because it's people who fuel the Iowa Food System Coalition, people who, against great odds, work every day to improve food and farming in our state. And as we head into the next legislative session in Iowa, one bound to be challenging in many ways, it's a great time to pause and remember why we do the work we do. I'm Beth Hoffman, and this is At the Iowa Farm Table, a podcast where we look at what works and does not work in the food system today, from right here in the middle of the country, Iowa. It's a production of the Iowa Food System Coalition, a group of more than 50 organizations involved in making food and agriculture more accessible, sustainable, and nutritious. Inspiration comes in many forms. Giselle Breskowitz of Iowa Valley Resource Conservation and Development recalls how she found her calling by accident one day when she was in college.
I was a student at the University of Iowa my freshman year, searching for my niche, like who am I, what's my identity. I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up in Illinois, did not have a farming background, and I came to college and I walked up to a table and she was like, "Do you want to do something for the environment?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." So I joined the Environmental Coalition in the student garden. There was this amazing leader. He had us go out and garden and grow food and learn how to do it and talk about community building and local ag. And it inspired me to do what I do today. And that was at the age of 19. I feel super lucky to have found it.
Jonathan Lawrence just so happened to watch a movie.
Essentially, I saw a documentary about factory farming, and I saw firsthand what is happening for food to get to our plates. Yeah, from that point on, it kind of just changed my whole outlook on how I interact with our food system. What are the actions that I can take? Okay, I can start eating less meat. I can start supporting farms that actually raise animals in a more sustainable and especially regenerative way. Yeah, it just really started to kind of open up this whole outlook on what we've been kind of fed, literally.
The way we're brought up can set us on a lifelong search for answers. Kate Gilbert, a professor in food science at Iowa State University, was inspired by her childhood on a farm, raising hogs and cattle and vegetables.
Growing up on the farm and trying to understand why we did the things that we did really led me into food science. When you are pulling weeds in a garden or you are feeding cattle a variety of places across the farm, you have a lot of time to think. I wanted to know why the way we raised livestock and crops really tied into food quality. And the more that I went off and worked in the industry and then came back to teach, I really wanted to put the pieces together.
Emotion can drive us to spend our life dedicated to an issue. Chris Jones, a fisherman and candidate for Secretary of Agriculture, was inspired by outrage.
Well, I grew up in Iowa, but I lived in Minnesota for about 15 years. Both Minneapolis and St. Paul use the Mississippi River for their source of drinking water, and so that's where I lived. And the Mississippi is quite clear up there. The E. coli is very low. The nitrate is very low. I moved back to Iowa in 2003, started a job at the Des Moines Waterworks, and we were testing the river every day, and the river's barely usable. And I thought, this is what people are drinking. And so at that time I wondered, where's the outrage? Where's the outrage about this? And I didn't see any outrage, and so that's when I knew I needed to do something.
Anger is by no means the only inspiring emotion. For Mallory DeVries, a communications specialist, love drives her desire for a better system for her family and community.
It wasn't until my daughter was born in 2016. She suffered a brain injury during birth. It wasn't really until then that I paid more attention to my health and my community around me and the community that would be surrounding her, and started to think about kind of what I want my legacy to be, what kind of place I want my kids to grow up in. We were able to start farming and growing our own food. When you're raising a kiddo with a brain injury or with any injury, and when you're raising any kid, you start to realize the nutrient density and like the profiles of those foods and how important that is to just, if you're, whatever you're putting on the table, why wouldn't it be the best that you can provide?
Sometimes it's a single aha moment that inspires us. Matt Russell, the executive director of the Iowa Farmers Union, recalls the moment that inspired him.
I was in Minnesota at an event that was the soul of agriculture. This was 1998. I heard 2 dairy farms talk about transitioning to a grass-based dairy program. And in both of their stories, they told how the bank told them they couldn't do it. The extension office told them that they couldn't do it. Everybody told them that they couldn't do it, but they went ahead and did it. I thought, my dad is a farmer. He gets all of his information from someone selling him something. So the banker, ag media, extension connected to agribusiness, everybody that was giving him advice was trying to sell him something. And it was like this aha moment that we need a different understanding of what it means to be a farmer and how we make decisions. And if we simply listen to the major voices that are out there, farmers are going to keep losing. On the way home, I'm like, this is what my life is going to be. I was already thinking sustainability, and then it was this real solid, sustainability, natural resources, farming and agriculture. That's my life.
Other times, inspiration builds slowly. Luke Elzinga of DMARC has been trying to improve food and farming in Iowa for more than 10 years. He's motivated by the generations of colleagues he works with.
Well, it's a lot of moments for me, just the intergenerationality of this movement. There's a lot of people who started off this work in their young 20s and they're now in their 30s and are kind of stepping into more of these leadership roles. And when we think about, I think, just politics on the national level, there's talk of, passing the torch versus, are you building something for the next generation of leadership, or are you holding on to control and power until you lose it? And I think what we see in this movement is learning from the past and the generations of people who have been doing this work for decades before I was even born, but everyone coming together. And this is really a bright spot, I think, in the food system work in Iowa, just seeing what we can build together.
It's true. We're already hearing from our legislators that Iowa has no money to spend and programs will be cut. But it's also a great time for change. Teresa Harms is a lobbyist working in the legislature for some of the coalition's partners.
I think we've seen that people are much more interested in not only where their food is coming from, but because we've had all of these significant changes, whether you look at something like the bird flu, or you look at the price of beef, you look at the nitrates in our water, whatever you're looking at, people are starting to think about, I need to know where my food comes from.
This shift inspires me. Decades of work by farmers and activists has in fact shifted public opinion. It's now mainstream to talk about local food, and people want access to organically raised, chemical-free products, even in rural Iowa. I think Luke Elzinga put it best. Change in agriculture doesn't come from a single person dashing to the finish. It's slow and steady, and includes generations of people.
It's not a sprint, it's not a marathon, it's a relay race.
It's not a sprint or a marathon. It's a relay race.
It's a relay race.
Regenerative agriculture depends on generations of people to carry the torch. We hope this episode inspired you to become more involved this legislative season. Be sure to contact your legislator, even when you think no one cares about your ideas. And we hope you'll consider joining us to learn more about issues in our food system. A very special thanks to
My name is Teresa Harms.
My name is Luke Alzinga.
I'm Giselle Bruskowitz.
I'm Mallory DeVries.
Chris Jones.
Kate Gilbert.
I'm Jonathan Lawrence.
My name is Matt Russell.
Mallory DeVries and Enrica Deb edited this piece. I'm Beth Hoffman, and you've been listening to At the Iowa Farm Table, a production of the Iowa Food System Coalition. Be sure to comment on this episode and pass them on to anyone you think may be interested. Thanks for listening.